want to look at today is we know that there's in the crazy story of the way Dinah, who is one of the daughters of Yaakov, well, the daughter of Yaakov, she goes out and says, Vatete Dinah. The Dinah went out, and because she goes out and she exposes herself to the population that's around her in the city of Shechem. So the prince of Shechem comes and he takes her and he rapes her, and it's all these terrible things that happen. And we know that the children of Yaakov, the sons of Yaakov, are very upset about this. And Shechem, who is the son of Hamor, who wants to marry Dinah, so he comes and Hamor comes and they discuss it together with Yaakov, and Yaakov says, okay, well, one thing we can't do is that we can't marry anybody. We can't marry anybody who's not circumcised. So they say, okay, fine. The whole city now becomes circumcised. It says they will all get circumcised, and that's where I want to go look at that point, because we know what happens. The Torah says, "Vayi bayom hashlishi," on the third day, biyotam koavim, and the Torah says they were in great pain. Vayikchu shnei bnei Yaakov, Shimon v'Levi, the two sons of Yaakov, Shimon and Levi, achei Dinah, the brothers of Dinah. So it gives them the title of Shnei bnei Yaakov. It gives them their names, and it calls them the brothers of Dinah. Ish charbo, each one took their sword. Vayavo el ir betach, and they came upon the city. No one, obviously, everyone trusted them. Vayargu kol zachar, they killed all the males. Chamor vet Shechem benu hargu lefi charev, and they killed Chamor and Shechem. Vayikchu et Dinah mi beit Shechem yetu, and they took Dinah and they took Dinah out of the house of Shechem. So the question, I mean, there's so many multifold questions, but let's see what Rashi says. So Rashi first tells us, Shnei b'nei Yaakov. We know that Shimon and Levi are the sons of Yaakov, and if that's the case, why does the Torah have to tell me that? So Rashi says, Banav hayu, they were his sons. Va'afal pichein, nonetheless. They behaved, Shimon and Levi, like any other person that were not the children of Yaakov. What does that mean? They didn't go and ask him. They didn't go and get any advice from him. They just went on their own. They went as just two individuals to go and do what they did and going to destroy the city of Shechem. The Gur Aryeh points out that they should have gone to speak. The Gur Aryeh is the Maharal. They should have gone to speak to their father. They should have gone to tell him what was going, but they didn't. And therefore, since they didn't go to get Eitzah from Yaakov, whilst they are the children of Yaakov, in the way that they manifested themselves as Shimon and Levi, but not just Shimon and Levi. The pasuk said, Achei Dinah, the brothers of Dinah. And we know that they weren't the only brothers of Dinah. And that's what's interesting, is that you've got Reuven, Shimon, Levi, Yehuda, Yisachar, and Zvulun. All of those six are the sons of Leah, and all of them therefore are the brothers of Dinah. But it only refers to Shimon and Levi as the brothers of Dinah. Why is that? So the Maharal says as well, the reason is because they were prepared to really take matters in hand and to be Moshe Nefesh on her behalf. And since they were Moshe Nefesh on her behalf, that's what made them into her brothers. And that's such an important lesson that the Maharal is teaching us, is that how we speak about Am Yisrael, Kol Yisrael Achim, that we're all brothers, but when is it that we define ourselves as brothers, as sisters, as family? When we're prepared to be Moshe Nefesh for one another, when we're prepared to have to go through a certain level of difficulty, through a certain level of challenge, through a certain level of sacrifice for the other person, that's when we become Achim, that's when we become their brothers. Okay, the Das Zakanim wants to understand, what is this business of that that they go on the third day when they're all in such unbelievable pain. His words are so why did they deceive the people? It's just fascinating, because we have now, having Yaakov gone through that process of getting the brachas from Yitzchak and going through a process of deception, of some type of what could be seen as underhandedness. So there are stories that follow out of that also seem to express a similar thing. One of those stories is this one. How come Yaakov says you got to go? Everyone's got to get brised. They all go get brised, and then on the third day they come L'Ramot Bnei Ayir. They come. They deceive the people of the city, and they come and they kill them. So he says an amazing thing. He says the Das Zakanim. The Das Zakanim, by the way, that's translated. Das Zakanim means the opinion of the Zakanim Balei Tosfot. Those are the Balei Tosfot. The Balei Tosfot are the first Balei Tosfot are the grandchildren of Rashi. So they're therefore like an enhancement of Rashi. We talk about Rishonim. We talk about powerful people. The people that comment on the Gemara, they're very powerful, and so therefore what they say holds a lot of water. And what they say is as follows. Perhaps you can say that they didn't deceive them. Why? Because on the third day, we know that the third day is always the most difficult day of healing. That's why Chazal understand it. I don't know if it works on a medical level, but that's how Chazal understand it. And that's why they say that when Avram Avinu was sitting outside his tent, that was on the third day. Just after his bris. He had just had a bris. Third day, he's in the most pain that he can be. I'm not sure how the healing process works, but that's what it says. And therefore it comes and it says, B'yom HaShlishi, they were in such pain, that they were in agony. And because they were in agony, says the Das Zakanim, Hayu mitzta'arim v'hayu mitzchartim al hamilah. What does that mean? They were in pain, and because they were in pain, they had charota. They regretted the fact that they did the bris milah, and that's why they were able to kill it. And therefore, what we see here is such an interesting idea: is that it's all very nice to say you want to come into the fold of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But if you're coming into the fold of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, firstly, in the way the process of conversion works, you have to take upon yourself the all mitzvahs. You have to say, these are the mitzvahs that we want to do. And therefore, when you take on the mitzvahs in the same way as there's a certain level of Mesiras Nefesh that Shimon and Levi did for their sister, so too, there's a Mesiras Nefesh when we take on mitzvahs that it might cause pain, difficulty, hardship. But nonetheless, we don't regret doing it. Why? Because we know that it's a mitzvah, that it's connecting us to the Ribono Shel Olam. But they had charota. And he says, therefore, because they had charota, they were allowed to kill them. Because they didn't really want to be part of Bnei Israel. And because they didn't really want to be part of Bnei Israel, therefore they were chayav misa because of the terrible deed that they were party to in terms of the rape of Dinah. Comes along the Das Academy, says, V'tema. He says, by the way, Lama himtinu ad yom hashlishi. He says, why do they have to wait till the third day? They could have done on the first day, the second day, they were still in pain. Elenire, he says, the way we can understand it. Not everyone could be brised on one day. Not even on 2 days. But by the third day, everyone had a bris, and so therefore, and they were in agony, and therefore, and that's why they took their swords and they went to kill him. So according to what the Das Akanim is explaining us, is that their charota revealed their real intention. And since their charota reveals their real intention, therefore they were chayav misa, and therefore they were entitled to kill him. I'm not saying whether they could or they couldn't. I'm not giving judgment. I'm just telling you what the Das Akanim says. The Emek Dava, the Netziv, says something really astounding on this, and it's so important for us to understand. He says, "Vayikhu shnei bnei Yaakov, Shimon v'Levi," that the two children of Yaakov, Shimon and Levi, went out. And he says, Tevat Sheni Mayuta. Why does it have to tell me the two sons of Yaakov? Just say, Vayikhu bnei Yaakov, Shimon and Levi. Yeah, you can use that, right? The two sons, Shimon and Levi, you don't have to say, sorry, the sons, Shimon and Levi, you don't have to say two, because obviously they're two. Ubaal Lamdainu says the Netziv, beautiful this. The Af al Gav Shinis Achdu Bakaz Gadol Harchiv Ha'ir, even though they were single-minded in their anger to go and destroy the city. And they came together because they were going through this incredibly dangerous place. Nonetheless, Hayushnaim. They were still two, meaning they were two individuals. They didn't go there with the same mindset. Hainu, sheshonim ayu bedas hamavir esa eish hazeh. What does it mean that they were different in what was motivating them? They were both angry and they both wanted to do what they wanted to do, and they were both prepared to put themselves into sakana. But we need to understand that sometimes people come together, they're angry, but they may be angry for a different reason. They may be passionate for different reasons. What was firing them up? Says the Netziv, the one comes in the normal way that he wants to avenge the honor of his father's house. And what's that about? That's about kavod. And kavod is something that is not something that we try and strive for. And if it's not something we try to strive for, then it's what we call an eish zara. Where do we see the concept of eish zara? Says the Netziv. That's the same with Nadav and Avihu. Nadav and Avihu had this deep desire to connect to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, but they brought an eish zara. That desire was not what Hashem wanted. So therefore, it's an eish zara. It's a driving, passionate force, but it's not appropriate. It's not godly. So to hear the eish zara is the desire for kavod, to be mechabed the Beit Aviv. And the other one came, Ba Badat Kinat Hashem. Beli Shum Pani Veratzon. He eish shall have it ya. And the other one came as because he wanted to avenge or to take vengeance on the vengeance of Hashem, because this was something that was done to a person who represented the Jewish people, who represents HaKadosh Baruch Hu in this world, and without any argument, says the Netziv, he eish shall have it. This is the fire of the burning of the flame of Hashem. Nonetheless, you have to be so careful, even when we think that we are going to be like stating the space of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, right? We have to be careful. You got to be sure that the place is right and that the time is right. And if one isn't one careful of that, then it destroys everything. And that's what it means when it said earlier that they didn't go get the eitzah, the advice of their father, because they were burning with desire on the one hand to avenge the kavod of their father, the other one to avenge the kavod of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But it has to be in the right place and it has to be at the right time, and you got to take the appropriate eitzah, the appropriate advice. And that when Yaakov tells them what they shouldn't have done, he separates them as well in the manner in which they did the things, because Yaakov didn't agree with it, because it was an eish zara, it wasn't the right thing. And so we learn from this that even though what they did may have been theoretically the right thing, it was wrong in that they didn't go and get advice from their father, number one. And number two, according to the way the Netziv explains, their motivation was incorrect. They were coming from an eish zara. They weren't coming from a balanced place. And so therefore, hamakom, v'hazman, and all the manner in which they did it may have been inappropriate, and therefore needs to be revisited. And that's why when they came and they tell the Yaakov, when he finds out about it, he says to them, you made me as this like this ogre for those people who live in this area. The Canaanites and the Perizzites. Says, now I'm worried they're going to come against me, right? And their response to that is you have to understand where we come from. How could it be? This is what we are so passionate that our daughter should be treated like a prostitute, like somebody who is just able to it's completely hefker, that her being and that her femininity is completely hefker. And so therefore Yaakov does not respond to that. We're not sure how, we're not sure why. Later on in Vayechi, where he gives the brachas, that's the time we see his real response. Have a beautiful